My dear brothers and sisters in Christ Jesus, today we look at the conversation between Moses and God and the circumstances surrounding them. Moses was up on the mountain meeting with God and worshipping Him and receiving instructions from God. While he was on the mountain with God, the people who were in the valley below began to taint God and taint God's image by worshipping an idol. And they began to ascribe the glory that should have gone to Yahweh, to God alone. They began to ascribe that glory to the idol. And what we see is immediately the intimacy that they had with God was lost. Now we know this because all this time, when God referred to the Israelites, He referred to them as His people, God's people. Suddenly, in Exodus 32 verse 7, He speaks to Moses and says, "Your people." He no longer says, "My people." This is crazy even to consider. It means that if we sin, our sin brings about a change in identity. When we are with God, our identity is in God and our identity is God. But our sin results in our identity changing. Sin literally results in identity theft. We allow sin to make us like the thing that we worship. And we know that what we worship, we end up becoming like. It requires a prayer intervention like that of Moses to bring about God's mercy towards us. He was in God's manifest presence, and it required that kind of prayer where he stood in the gap and prayed in God's name for the people. Then and only then did God relent. My dear brothers and sisters, we are faced with that kind of situation today. We have drastically gone away from God, individually and as a community and as a nation, and sin is running rampant. It is changing our identity. Fear is becoming commonplace. This drastic situation we now face requires two things. First, an immediate rejection of the idols we worship. Anything that we worship apart from God, we need to reject it in the favor of God. And secondly, a standing in the gap for our brothers and sisters who are in the same situation. A standing in the gap for our brothers and sisters who are in sin, who are gripped by fear. As we do this, God will do two things. He will reestablish Himself as our God, thus restoring our original identity with Him. And He will utilize our prayer to save our brothers and sisters from impending disaster. God is calling us right now. Can we return to Him fully with all of our hearts? Have a blessed and Jesus-filled